And welcome back to the Red River Horror Podcast. This is episode number 72. I am your host, Joe Zakreski, joined by Eddie Cayazzo. Hi, Ed. How are you?
Joe, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, buddy. And guess what? We've got a guest with us this week.
We do, and what's made the Red River Horror Podcast so much fun for so many people, I just wanted to let you know, we did crack the top 50.
Yay! Back at it.
Four or five times, and most of the times when we do that, when we crack the top 50, it's because of an interview.
Yes.
So we have a very special guest today, one I'm very excited about because she's from Philly.
Yes. And we've been talking about it, so it's like it's going to be exciting by the time we get this person on. So we want to...
All right, so it's Brooke Lewis Bellas, everybody, from Philadelphia. Welcome to the program, Brooke.
Miss Vampy herself is on the show.
Thank you so much, Eddie, Joe, and Red River Horror. Really, I say this with all my heart and honesty in Hollywood here. I'm a Philly chick through and through. You know this. And you guys have represented from Philly to Hollywood so many times for me, all our films, all our web series, everything horror. And I'm so eternally grateful. That said, if I could just take a quick, brief moment, and I know you guys are totally down to join me, and we discussed this briefly, and I would be remiss if I didn't bring it up. So before we get into some super fun, let's take a moment, everyone, listeners. I'm going to get upset again, but one of my best friends in the world, one of my favorite directors and collaborators, Stacey Lane Wilson, and she's, one of our people. And I know you guys made a post, as did I. And yesterday, her incredible, famous, talented musician, iconic, amazing dad, and that's Don Wilson from The Ventures, passed on. I like to say passed over to a better place. And so I just want to take one moment for us and the listeners to pay a tribute and prayer to the late, great Don Wilson, out of respect for Stacey Lane Wilson, who I love like my family. And so I know she's having a challenging time right now and had to head over to Seattle for the weekend. So we are holding this interview the following day. So just a quick moment of prayer, please. Thank you, guys. Thanks so much for honoring that. I know you wanted to do it too. We talked about it, and we love you, Stacey, and we are sending you love through the airwaves here, and we can't wait until you are healed and we have you back.
No, well said, Brooke.
Well said.
Yeah, we in Philadelphia for sure. We saw Don Wilson on the stage, and I think I spoke to Stacey about this on the Philadelphia stage of American Bandstand, introducing the world to that California sound. So I like to look at it this way, Brooke. The guitar gods collected Don Wilson. They said, you know what? It's time for you to come back and rock up here, and because you're one of the greats. So
I love that. I saw that in your post too. And that's my philosophy, is like, let the music play. Speaking of music, and I keep saying that too. In fact, shout out to Darren Gordon Smith. And I know we're going to get into a lot of conversation about the second age of Aquarius later. But, I keep saying that too to Darren Gordon Smith, who you're going to have on, who's one of our writers and composers. And, I keep explaining to him, I'm like, you don't understand, dude. Philly is the music town. I think so many people think of Detroit, and they think of present day, as more LA and New York and now Nashville. But I don't think people understand. And I'm such a proud Philly chick. I named my production company Philly Chick Pictures, right? And I've been in Hollywood for 20 years. But I keep explaining, Philly is the OG music town, right?
I like to think so.
I think so. I mean, this is where the Rock and Roll of Fame should be if it was in the right spot. But
my dad's still bitter about that. He won't go. He will not go to the one in Cleveland because we lost out on that bid.
It should be here because this is where Bandstand was. I mean, it started.
Cleveland, man. What? But anyway, you guys, can I just say this? Now I'm going to totally be a Philly chick. And, you could take the girl out of Philly, but you can't take Philly out of the girl. 20 years in Hollywood, and I still am a bull buster. And, you guys, I love listening to your show. I listened to your whole, I listened to your whole Scream assessment, which I'm such a Scream, we're from the same eras. I'm such a Scream chick, too. And Oh my God. And I die because I miss you guys so much and I miss Philly so much. And I sit and I listen to the accent, which I worked so hard to get rid of when I came to Hollywood, especially, right? So, but I love it. It's like talking to my friends and family back home, my real people, my soul people. And you guys are like, when are you going to the thing? You know, it's like, I'm going, like I call friends, we're going down the shore. I'm like, oh my God, I miss home so much.
Well, that's what's so funny is, so I just want to go back in time just a little bit. So we know each other only through Stacy. Like that's the only way we've met, you know, via online and all the social media, all that fun stuff. But there was a film that you had to have been in back in 2015. So Joe and I, we are not filmmakers, or were not at that time. Can't say, you know, everything we've done.
We got an award.
We did get an award. So we created we were tasked by the film office and this company called Tent Square at the time to come up with a Philadelphia challenge that was centered around Rocky, like everything else. But so it had to include horror elements. It had to include sci-fi. So we made a Rocky 7 trailer that was 30 seconds long. Long story short, that got picked up. So the winning trailers, they lasted 30 seconds. The winning ones actually got to air before movies that were screening at the
First Glance Film Festival.
First Glance Film Festival. That's right. And
stop it.
Yes.
I don't know this.
So
I mean, that's like my Philly family too. You know, Bill Ostroff and I go back. I mean, people don't know this. Here's a spoiler alert. Do you know that I had just moved to Hollywood like 2003 and Bill hired me to help produce the First Glance Film Festival, Los Angeles at Raleigh Studios?
Get out of here. Look at that.
No joke. That's how far back we go. It's such a small Philly family.
So that's what I'm
Bill's
saying.
my buddy.
So that's it's funny that, you know, through the horror space, when I founded Red River Horror in 2017, met Stacy and she introduced us to you. And it's just funny, but back then I remember, so what film would it have been around that time that would have been at First Glance Philly back in 2015? Do you remember?
So I had nothing at First Glance Philly in 2015. My last First Glance Philly premiere was a comedy titled Half New Year that I played one of the roles in, which I love, with Drew McInerney, who's also from Philly, and he was the lead. And we shot it out here in Hollywood with amazing talent. And so we premiered that. We had our Philly premiere in 2019. Wow. In fact, just before the pandemic. So that was my last First Glance. Now, so I'm trying to think. I want to say almost
saw you either on a screen or in person, something. I'm telling you.
Could have been. Who knows? Who knows? Well, here's the thing, though. I think I think you guys covered, I was trying to think, like, did Stacy introduce us, or had you guys covered one of my films prior to Stacy? And then I believe, and in fact, I know for a fact, because you were so generous and kind with your comments and critiques on Psychotherapy, the short film that Stacy and I shot, that I hired her to write and direct for us. We shot that in 2016, that I started with Ricky Dean Logan, that was so good and so chilling and so like a revenge type of, like, women revenge. And Stacy wrote me one of my favorite roles of my acting career. And Amazon, I mean, it's on Amazon Prime to this day. Like, it got picked up. It got some serious. It won tons of awards. So you guys had covered Psychotherapy, which she also then put into She-Venge. Yeah. Oh. So I'm trying to think. It wouldn't have been at First Glance. So 2015. So I had The Morning, which is a sci-fi drama. Beautiful indie film that stars Louis Mandylor and Michael Walton, Dominique Swain, Larry Henkin from Home Alone, Peter Dobson. Great cast. That released end of 2015, 2016, but that was not at First Glance. So
all right,
yeah.
So maybe it was organic. Maybe it was organic. I thought for sure. I knew. I had known, like, of you before, like, from the First Glance world, I guess we'll say, because we were we were not really like filmmakers when we did this, and it won, and it got picked up, and we were so excited that it was going to screen before all the big films at first glance at the freaking Tuttleman, not the Tuttleman.
There's the other theater in the Franklin Institute.
The other theater, but I was still excited.
That's amazing. First of all, that is amazing. And again, shout out to and I'm like, no spoiler alerts, but Bill and I are in talks for some fun stuff if I can ever get my butt and if the spikes stop back to Philly. But yeah, I mean, I love, like, I'm such a supporter and fan of First Glance. What it could have been, I do a lot of like virtual speaking engagements for Bill and First Glance still, when they have women in film, women in horror, I've spoken on all those panels. So maybe he aired one of those. I'm not certain, but I do have a special place in my heart for First Glance and a testament to you guys, because that's like no joke. Like First Glance, it has a very, for an indie film festival, they're very much about support indie filmmakers and indie artists, and they really do keep it at a level. And so I'm very grateful that I've been able to be a part of it for so many years. I mean, I've had films there. My gosh, we had Pride and Loyalty premiered, I think at the one in LA, First Glance LA, in like, seriously, I think like 2004. I mean, that's how long I've been a part of First Glance Film Festival, both coasts.
Wow. Okay.
That's so cool.
Right, so then just remind me, because then as the year rolls on, then I start forgetting things. But remind me, we got to check back in on First Glance and Bill and all them. We got to do a preview or something.
We got to see what we'll reach out. But also, with our next project in the works, I mean, that's our goal, is First Glance LA.
It's true. You're right.
It's like that'd be
awesome.
That's where
and then if next time I have a film in First Glance Philly, you guys need to come out, and you guys should really do and do a show live there.
That's a great idea too.
No question about it. We were, like I said, the first time we were psyched. It was the Franklin Institute. We were all hype, but yeah. So Brooke, that's what's kind of cool, is that you are from the area, and it's, I don't know if this is a complex that I have, but it seems like our region is always overlooked in the arts. It's always overlooked in music. It's always overlooked in the horror community, I think, and it's and it's. I'm trying to say, like, I think we and the city does a good job of talking about itself, but on the world stage, I don't know if we're known like that. So, Brooke, why I was excited to talk to you is you do have quite the history in horror, and you're from Philadelphia. Could you, I guess, go through some of the more exciting horror films to you that you've been in?
That I've been in. Thank you so much. Thank you for saying that. It's so interesting because I've had such a unique trajectory in my career. I mean, I started, and I gotta give props to my hometown. I mean, I started quite young in college, where I was working, and when you are a theater arts major, what have you, and then I was going to go to law school, but that's a whole other conversation. Like and probably a good, wrap around to what you just said, where I wasn't fully supported in the way that, and I'm talking by a city, in the way that I feel a lot of my friends from Los Angeles and New York had been supported in an overall community way, even though we know there is so much opportunity in Philadelphia creatively. And so in college, I mean, those were my opportunities where I was able to, get my start in equity theater at like the Walnut Street Theater School and the Arden Theater Company. And I could like understudy shows and earn points toward my Actors Equity Association. So I bring that up because there are so many opportunities. I just want to address that. I also started my career, two funny things with Philly, and then I'll get into your horror question. But I have to shout out to my hometown. This is so fun for me to get to talk to people who understand. So when I was super young in college, I also, first of all, when I was like 12 years old, I got my first little big break. Ready for this one? You guys might even be too young, but Dance Party USA. Dancing on Air and Dance Party USA. When I was a kid, I had my first opportunity to dance on. I auditioned, got chosen, and danced on Dance Party USA, which was like the kids' dance show back then. So that was like so cool. It was such a great venue to have for young artists in Philly. Then from there, a little bit later in college, I had the opportunity to audition for and perform in the Great Horror Segue. My first big theater break there was Six Flags Great Adventure. I know it's Jersey, but it's a Philly thing too.
Fright Fest.
Right. Right. Well, kind of. I think yes, but it might have even not even been called Fright Fest back then. I don't even know. And I was in the Warlock's Revenge, and it was a show I was cast in. Yes, and I was like the like maiden. She was like the sexy like. I don't even know what you want to call her, like brothel whore or something. And a warlock was coming after.
That sounds very on brand for Six Flags.
Right, and very on brand for Brooke Lewis Bellas. So, but I performed in the show at the Halloween. It was amazing. So it might have been Fright Fest, yes, or whatever it's called. So, like, those are some of my best memories. So who knew that I would end up becoming a famous scream queen many moons later, right? But the horror world sort of captured me and what had happened. Very, very long story, but long story long. I'm good at telling long stories. After going right to New York at 21 out of college and landing after busting my ass for 6 auditions, booked Tony and Tina's Wedding off Broadway, equity contract. And when you are, for any of your listeners who are interested in getting into the entertainment industry, it's not all fluff. It is a lot of hard work, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and you really need to prove yourself as a money maker. And that's when you're taken seriously. Nobody really cares about your talent. I mean, they do, but you know what I'm saying? It's about, can you make these agents and managers money? So once that happened for me at a very young age, I was signed with big agents in New York and stuff. So that opened a new world for me. And I started my career in Tony and Tina's Wedding, the Italian mobster, comedy wedding. And I was doing a ton of edgy, raw indie films. And then, so never did I think I'd get into horror films. I was just a horror fan. I joke, I'm like, I was a fangirl my whole young childhood, right? So cut to making a living there, up for a bunch of TV shows, moved to New York, which is now after New York, moved to LA 20 years ago. And I had done all these edgy films. I had done Broadway. I had done all this like stuff. I had even done a Fox sitcom titled Quintuplets here in Hollywood. Nobody cared. Nobody knew who I was. Didn't matter. All of a sudden, right, I do this one. I partner with Ken Del Vecchio, one of the production companies I worked for as an actress in New York prior to moving to Hollywood. And I had gone to Sundance 2004. So this is going to be great for your horror listeners. Sundance 04, I get invited to, like at all the parties. And what comes out, what releases, the original Saw.
Yeah.
The Saw franchise.
Oh,
now, again,
man.
Oh, yeah.
That was a year.
2004. I'm like again, like a fangirl at the time. And I'm watching and I'm like, okay, I'm a visionary. Like they are on to something. You couldn't even get tickets to get in to see the film. People were running out. I was like I'm at Sundance Film Festival partying, watching people run out of the theater and James Wan, right? And so I'm like, So I go back to the production company that wanted me to be their LA liaison that I'd worked for as an actress in New York. And they said, okay, I said, here's the deal. I will produce with you. I will help raise financing for this film. You write me one of the lead roles. We surround me with named actors, and you need to do a psychological horror thriller like a Saw, something edgy and raw, and then we can talk. So that is what happened. They wrote me a film titled Polycarp. That was the original title. So for all you young filmmakers out there, 10% of the time you get to keep your original title and your original story and everything else, and the rest you have no choice once it goes to distribution and the real people behind the scenes. So the film ends up being changed to, long story, but Kinky Killers. Yes, Kinky Killers, which I sit here and I go, oh my God. And at the time I was young still. I really did think it was my first venture into the horror thriller mystery world. And I really did think, I'm done. My career's like over. I'm in a film titled Kinky Killers that, by the way, the distributor changed, which was Universal. And however, here's a good story. So I am starring in this with Oscar-nominated Charles Durning from Dog Day Afternoon and Tootsie. I'm an executive producer. Michael Pare, who I was a big fan of, from Eddie and the Cruisers, Streets of Fire, Philadelphia Experiment, yes. And Showtime picks it up. So here's how weird life works and my trajectory into becoming a scream queen. Never did I think, oh my God, I'm going to become a famous scream queen. And Showtime picks this film up, airs it 3 nights a week for 2 years straight. All of a sudden, now mind you, you heard me, I had done some big mobster movies in New York. I had done the Fox sitcom. I had performed on Broadway. Nobody cared. All of a sudden, this happens. My manager at the time calls and she's like, you need to come to to the office. I go to the office. Now, I think because they changed the title to Kinky Killers, I'm getting fired. I'm never going to get a rep again. My career's over before it started. I get to the office and there's a stack of like sticky notes and paper and fan mail. And I'm like, what the hell? Suddenly, oh my God, right? You're like, what just happened here? And, you know, I'm like in my early 30s at the time. And I'm like, okay, how does this happen? And they're like, okay, Brooke, we're getting calls from the horror conventions. They want you to come and be they're calling you the new It Scream Queen. They want you to come and be a celebrity guest. And they're going to pay you $2,000 for the weekend, which to me, that's a pretty good payday, you know?
Yes.
And especially when you're young, right? And then they're like, and then here's a stack of fan mail that they sent to the office, fans sent to the office. And I'm like, pinch me. This is insane. So, you know, at that point, and here's how life works, and here's how my career trajectory worked after being on a Fox sitcom and Broadway. Like at this point, right, you're like, okay, you can fight it and go against the current, which we all often do too much, or you can just follow the stream, go with it, embrace it. And that, as a horror fan, that's what I chose to do. And continuing the conversation, I'll shut up in a second, like it led to immediately after that, I Murders, which is one of my favorites, which is a murder mystery thriller that, I mean, I got to star in opposite Tony Todd, Candyman for the horror listeners. And right, and
the home of
Frank
Tony Todd
Grillo.
Tuesday, right here.
Oh, that's right. Tony Todd Tuesday. We love that. We love that. We have to get back to doing that because we kind of like took a break.
I know.
And right, we need to like be on that.
For sure.
Like, oh my God. Frank Grillo, who ended up becoming like an A-list star, you know, from The Purge, and I mean, so many great projects, right? And
he's the only thing that's good about The Purge. Sorry, I'm sorry.
The one that he was in, yeah. And then William Forsythe, who has become another horror staple from Once Upon a Time in America, you know, and like the list goes on and on. So, I mean, that was a blessing, and from that to get to real quickly the real cult horror of my life and career, the wonderful Greg Lamberson, who's my dear friend and associate to this day. He reached out to me and said, it was 2008 at the time, and he said, I'm about to do a 20-year sort of reunion sequel to my original cult classic from 1988, Slime City. I'm doing Slime City Massacre, and I have Debbie Rochon, God bless Debbie Rochon, who's just amazing, attached. I want you to choose one of the other female leads, and I want you to come on and help me produce it, co-produce it, whatever you can do, and that's the deal. So I read it and I'm going. So at this point, I'm like, so here I just come off of like, you know, Showtime with Kinky Killers and Stars distributed I Murders. And I'm doing this, I'm in the midst of producing this mobster feature, Sinatra Club, which was huge. And I'm like, Slime City Massacre. Okay, I need to read the script. Right. So you listen to right? I mean, let's be honest. Like you listen to the title, you're like, oh my God, what is this? But it was so smart. I love the script. I love the subtext. It's about gentrification. It's campy. It's comedic. It's comedic, comedy, horror, action. But it's actually really smart. And I loved it. And I fell for Greg Lamberson and his crazy work. And we've been associates too, like ever since. And I've been so blessed. And so Slime City Massacre introduced me to this whole other cult classic indie horror world. And I ended up gratefully, and I say it humbly, winning the B Movie Award for Scream Queen of the Year and Horror Actress of the Year in 2010 for that film. So it just exploded from there.
Huh. That's so awesome. That's so awesome.
Thank you.
Because like, like even like when we've been doing things like the podcast and production group that I was working with, like we were mostly comedy focused. And in like the comedy world, it seemed like it was like friendly-ish, but a lot of like cutthroat.
Yeah.
And since like any like conventions we've gone to, festivals we've gone to, everybody we talk to in horror is like just, I mean, it's like, you know, this gruesome genre is just full of friendly people.
You brought that up before. No, I
bring it up all the time. I'm always blown away. Everyone we talk to in horror,
because you're right. Cool. We did when not talking about like ourselves, but we finally came together and did release a film that made it to the festival circuit. And what was funny is that, you know, like, yeah, people enjoyed the film, but it was the people in the horror community that were the most supportive, that were the nicest, that were willing to make the most introductions, that were, just shirt off their back type people. It was the horror folks. So that's crazy. So then, you may not have been looking for it, of course, and then you're just like, you know what the hell? Let's go all in. And the horror community's been good to you,
The horror community has been phenomenal. It really is. I love what you guys said. And in comedy, and we could have a whole other podcast around that. Like we could, I know the comedy world a lot, having done a network sitcom and having pitched network sitcoms in Hollywood, because I have a whole other side to me, as you know, about producing and my production company, Proud Philly Chick Pictures. But so, what it is, I think is it's very, very hard to break into comedy. Comedy is very specific. Comedy in indie film doesn't always translate. It doesn't translate to other countries and territories. So it's a very specific market. Whereas horror, I think, expands. That's something I love about horror, and I'm asked that a lot because, I love that. Listen, I'm not a gratuitous pour blood on my boobs kind of gal. That's never been me. It's not my taste to watch. It's not my taste to act in. I'm much more like, and that's one thing Stacey and I bonded on many years ago. We're like Brian De Palma junkies, right? Blow out, Philly here. I'm such a proud Philly chick. Blow out, man.
But Brian De
Palma,
fantastic.
Brilliant. Brilliant, right? With just the whole mystery thriller. I'm a Hitchcock junkie, so that's my jam. But that's what I love about horror is that horror has so many facets and so many sub umbrella. You can do thriller, you can do mystery, you can do crime, you can do gore. You can, and so many. You can do comedy, and it still falls. You can do psychological, like psychotherapy, and it still falls into the horror genre. And that is something that I love about it. And I do think, unfortunately, although it's changing. Really, we all know, Blumhouse and Jordan Peele have changed this so dramatically, and it's amazing. Become so much more mainstream, right? But it used to be back in the day, and even when I started, it's a community, it's like a fraternity, and I think we're a little bit of the underdogs. And something that I love for any female listeners out there, I'm all about speaking. I'm a celebrity ambassador for the Breaking the Chains Foundation about body image and self-esteem. Wow. And so one thing I've always loved, listen, I'm a short, half Italian girl from Philly, curvy, voluptuous, wild, crazy hair. I've never been the Hollywood girl next door, and I never will be, and that's okay. And so something I always felt that I loved about horror was how it embraced women of curves. It loves that pinup, that old school pinup Betty Page look, and right. And so I've always really loved being in that world too. So I really do think that in many ways it supports the underdog. I think you don't have to have a specific look to be famous in the horror genre, and I think if you do have talent and if you do have taste and you can maneuver it to your advantage, like I did in a positive way, I think, and like Stacey and I do when we collaborate together, in supporting women and creating powerful roles for women. A lot of mainstream media and television and film doesn't do that, even to this day in 2022. So it's something that I really am proud of with the horror world.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's actually it heading into, of course, we're going to talk about the reason you're here, the second age of Aquarius. We will get to that. But just because you have so much knowledge of the inside of the business, when you say, because I tried to get this out of other, we spoke to William Sadler, who was, he was promoting Bill and Ted. He's awesome, but he didn't really answer the question. And I am so curious about this. So they made him a producer of the film. And so when I asked him, I was just like, oh, and you actually even produced on this one. He's like, oh, yeah, it's so kind that they did that. And it's like, okay, well, what does that mean? So when you are producer of a film or executive producer of a film or actor in the film, when you have all those titles in your umbrella, your name's there, Brooke Lewis Bellas on the screen, and it says executive producer, co-produced by, produced, what is the difference? But what earns you that title? What did you have to do to get your name with producer in front of it?
You guys are asking the wrong person this question, because I will come back and we'll do another show and we can cover this in detail. I'm happy to. No, you really did ask the wrong person, because this pissed. Ready? You want the Philly chick to come out? Because I'm the nicest, sweetest girl in the world, and you know that. But like, you hit a nerve, and like freaking Philly will come out and like destroy, right? So here's the deal. And this is a really huge bone of contention with me. And other actors won't answer it because it's not PC, and they won't answer it specifically if they're not doing the physical producing. So I am. I have been freaking producing and busting my big butt for over 20 years doing it. I've had my Philly Chick Pictures production company 20 years to this day. And so for me, it is such a bone of contention because I'm real deal, I'm legit, and I do it. What's happening now, and to answer you authentically, is that somehow the producer and executive producer and co-producer, all of the producer titles are being thrown around because it began in Hollywood when actors said, like, you know, I don't want to name anyone, but we'll take a Tom Cruise, for example, you know, we'll say, and this is years ago, you know, we'll say, oh, okay, well, instead of taking, I mean, it really does trickle down from the top, and they'll say, okay, instead of taking, you know, my $20 million fee, give me $15 million and put the other $5 million back in the film and give me an executive producer credit. So people like me who are busting their ass doing the real deal producing are the ones who actually fall by the wayside and don't get acknowledged. So whatever you guys did, like for your indie stuff, right? Picture that and respectfully, I say this, like tenfold on, you know, dealing with on a larger scale, usually financial larger scale, you know, it really should go to the people who do the physical work or who go out and bust their ass. Like, I'll share this legit, like back in the day, you know, and I used to, before the economy crashed, I'm talking like 2008, 2009, with my production company, I would literally like make money. I would stash, you know, for each project, like 30 grand away for development seed money that I earned on my own. Okay. Yeah. And that's nothing, right? That's a small production company. And I would go out and I would take that and I would court investors. I would have, you know, whether banks, hedge funds, I mean, there's so many variables when it comes to like raising financing, right? And I would literally take like doctors and real estate people and anyone who was interested in investing films to a $500 steak dinner and, you know, pitch them the project, show them our business plans. You know, now it's like a lookbook, it's different, and I would raise money of all varieties. I mean, Sinatra Club, my partners and I raised like $1 million ourselves, just taking it to a small studio. Other projects, like in iMurders, I had several different investors that I went to help attach financing, and I became an executive producer with Robbie Bryan, who was my wonderful director and the producer. So a bunch of different people raised chunks of money. It took years. Let me say this. I was one of the head producers on Sinatra Club, which is an almost $2 million film. I found that script in 2004. We shot it in 2009. It was delivered and distributed in 2011. So you guys and listeners do the math. That is 7 years of my life. That's what a producer does. Yeah. iMurders took us almost 4 years. So you're talking about, so to get into a quick detail to answer your question on a technical level. So typically an executive producer will raise financing and will also when I'm executive producing, for example, we'll talk about the second age of Aquarius, which I was also sort of a producer in some capacity because I was on the day-to-day with them as well, except I wasn't doing I'm not a line producer or anything like that. That was our wonderful Nancy Long who ran the show on set. So like an EP, I will not only raise financing, but I will oversee the production so that they can run everything by me and, you know, someone sort of like kind of with experience, like, you know, overseeing stuff and helping, assisting, referring, a lot of referrals, stuff like that. Then when you're actually producer, and now it's changed a lot because of Producers Guild, et cetera, like a physical producer or produced by is the person or people who are literally doing the physical manual labor day to day, day in, day out, from development and pre-production to post-production and deliverables and delivery. So that is to me, the most challenging job, and the physical person who's like running the entire show. And oftentimes many people, as you see, but they are the ones who everything, you know, line producers are doing the budgets and they're crewing up. And then you've got the co-producers who are, you know, I don't want to say assisting the producer, because I've been a co-producer on many projects, which for me, I've both raised some financing. I've done all the day-to-day with my producer and directors, you know, so, but you're just not in the full authority position as you are a producer, an executive producer. And then an associate producer would be an assistant to help, you know, the producer director. So there's like the basic technical information if you're asking, but nowadays, unfortunately, and it infuriates me because, I mean, I'm sorry, and this is going to sound awful, but I'm saying it. I know so many actress peers who have, I look at like IMDb, and I'm very, as you know, I'm very professional, is I can have fun like the best of them, but I know the deal. And like when I go and I see, right, like one of our peers and he or she has 30 full producer or EP credits inside of a year. You guys heard me just say it took me 7 years to produce Sinatra Club, 4 years to produce I Murders, 3 or 4 years for us fully with Kinky Killers. Second Age of Aquarius, Stacey and I, and Darren, oh my God, I mean, they were even developing creatively, writing and doing the music. Darren's been working on the music for like 4 years or 5 years. And then I came on board as an EP and I've been helping them produce as well and oversee with them. And like, we have all been busting our butts. We started this in 2019. So 3 years ago almost. So if anyone has 30 producer credits inside of a year, unless you're, you know, Blumhouse, because then obviously like Jason Blumhouse, you know, they're overseeing, you know, 50 projects at once. That's his company. He can take that credit and he earned it, you know.
Sure.
Absolutely.
But like, right. But for indie people, like, that is, I'm sorry, you know, when you see that and it's some indie horror actor and they have 30 producer credits in a year, they are simply getting a credit that the company is handing over to them. Respectfully, you know, I understand to a degree if you are a known veteran horror star and you are used to getting $10,000 a day and someone can only pay you $5,000, so you agree to take half your pay, and then then let's say you're 5 days on it, you took half your pay, that's $25,000 that you're putting back into the film instead to get an executive producer credit. I'm okay with that. Like I'm okay with that because they invested, right? So to answer you back to me, and I don't mean to like be, you know, preaching here, but it is a great question, something I'm happy to answer and get into more detail next time. You know, for me, like Second Age of Aquarius, great segue. You know, I raised financing for the film. I believed in it. I believe in Stacey. She's not only one of my best friends, she's such a talent. And I was a huge fan of Darren Gordon Smith for many years with Repo, the genetic opera. And I absolutely love Nancy, his wife, who really impressed me as a full producer. And I actually, funny enough, at the time was leaving to go to Reno, Nevada for the month of December 2019 to go film and play one of the leads in a sitcom titled Stripped that my buddy Mark Klebanoff, who's directed me in a few things over the years, he wrote and directed with Christoph St. John, rest in peace. And so we were I was starring in it opposite Casper Van Dien and Louis Mandalore and Larry Henkin, again, just an incredible group. And so we were leaving, so I couldn't even be fully on set with the Second Age of Aquarius the whole time. So, you know, that's where the producers and the line producer, like Nancy Long and stuff, has to really, and Stacey's producing along with directing and stuff like that. And so, but then I've been a part of everything, you know, overseeing before and since and what have you. So I raised financing for them. And also, you know, again, in helping with everything, like Stacey and I have been doing all the publicity and in delivering, you know, I was able to connect them with my E&O insurance group and, you know, like little things like that, but they're so important, you know, and to discuss decisions like when you face walls as producers and you need to collaborate and you need to all raise more money together and all of that. So that's really what we do. And that's what, you know, I was so impressed with the Second Age of Aquarius script when I first read it. And I know that they had another financier that had pulled out or fallen through. And one of my rules as an actress in Philly Chick Pictures is I don't produce anything I don't act in, and it has to be a great role, and it doesn't have to be a lead, but it has to be a great role. And Stacey writes me such great roles, like you guys know, with psychotherapy.
Sure.
And when she was like, read the script, I was like, what can I do to help? And she's like, read the script. So I did, and they actually embellished my role of Tawny Stevens. She and Darren wrote it specifically for me, and I just fell in love. For me, I'm always so seduced by a great role, and I'm a character actress, and I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with the script, and here we are 3 years later.
That's what it seems like. It's just funny. I've heard the second age of Aquarius from social media for the longest time, and then you and Stacey talking about it. And it's just like, and it's not funny, but it's like you think of what happened in between. From the first time I heard about that, it's just like, oh, I guess this is coming out. Oh, I guess, and then no, like nothing for 2 years, and that's not your guys' fault. I'm saying it's just like whatever happened to this, and then boom, like here we are.
Here it is.
And that's and I hope that I didn't scare you and the listeners when I gave a very honest answer about what producers do.
Sure.
But that is, again, what it takes. Again, every feature film that I've been involved in as a producer, executive producer, co-producer, it has taken somewhere from 2 years to look at Sinatra Club, 7 years from the time you're in development and production and pre-production, production to post-production and delivery. And things happen. I mean, and they just do. Like, I've got another project that I am right now that we shot a proof of concept, shout out, and you guys know all about this, Red Rooms. It's a limited web series. And I know I want to get back to Second Age of Aquarius real quick, but Red Rooms will be finally coming out this year. And again, we shot same time I shot a proof of concept with my director, Joshua Butler, in October of 2019. We shot the Second Age of Aquarius, Stacey and I, my scenes, November 2019, because we had to shoot before I left to go to Reno, Nevada to star in the Casper Van Dien stripped pilot. And like, this is how crazy it gets. And then, so I'm like literally in Reno, Nevada working on that, and then checking in, via phone and internet with Stacey and the Second Age of Aquarius team while we're, in post-production. Josh is in post-production on the Red Rooms proof of concept. I mean, and that's how crazy and that's how much work it is. And then I chose during the crust of the pandemic, because I was freaking. I'm like, I have acted in all these projects in fall of 2019. What are we going to do? We can't just let them lie. We have to bring it to fruition, and we're in a pandemic. And then I said, Joshua Butler, we are not letting this proof of concept sit. We're going to tweak it. We're going to make it work. We're going to shoot a virtual limited web series during pandemic, and we will make this work. Philly Chick Pictures will executive produce it, and that is what we did. We filmed all through the pandemic, and with incredible horror stars. It's an absolute horror thriller, mystery horror thriller. It's really smart. I'm really proud of it. It's virtual. It's a micro-budgeted piece that is what it was meant to be, and something just incredibly entertaining and smart. And I mean, shout out to the horror stars that I'm proud that we put together with that. We have David Alpay from The Vampire Diaries. We have my amazing Susan Lanier Bramlett from the original Hills Have Eyes. We have Ricky Dean Logan, who I starred opposite in Psychotherapy, who from, the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. We have these people are so talented. Ricky's brilliant, all of them. Noah Blake, another super talent. He was like in all from Harry and the Hendersons to Teen Witch, Teen Wolf, all those shows when he was young. And he's still doing horror films, like just an incredible group. And so that I literally just signed a deal in January for distribution. And so I'm in the middle of, I'm working today on a Sunday, in the middle of delivering this, right? We all do it. In the middle of delivering this piece. And so it just never ends, and when delivery comes, and I can't say who our distributor is just yet, but I will in the future. But like, I'm so excited to just have signed a deal finally, because then delivery comes. And I mean, the work that it takes to deliver a project, it's unbelievable. And it takes an army to do it. And people don't understand. They think you just film and then like you slop it on to the internet streaming now. That's not how it works, And so if you're doing it at a professional level, you're doing it right. And right takes time, takes money, takes energy, and that is what I have to say. And so here we are again 3 years later. Well, whatever, Red Rooms is 2 years later, but we started shooting the proof of concept 2.5 years ago. Just like Second Age of Aquarius, we started shooting, 2.5 years ago. That's what it takes.
Yeah, so that's just such a haul.
Yep.
Yeah. It's amazing because I tell the story all the time on the show. It's like after we did our first indie, it's like I got cast in another one.
That's right.
And it's still shelved.
Yeah, that's right.
I was just like, that's where we're going to ride the wave.
So our star, Joe stepped up big, did a fantastic job in our comedy called Auto Shop. So he's just like, well, I really like this. I want, I'm going out for this other part. Gets it. And we're all excited.
Wow.
Waiting. Just like, all right, when are we going to see it? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, that's a whole other conversation. Like we could get into a whole distribution show as well.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, because nowadays, people can put, and that is again, segueing around to, listen, who am I to take away executive producer credit away from some young kid right out of college, who is technically, literally the producer who made 3 YouTube videos? Well, in a sense, that kid produced.
It did the work.
Probably, right? Did the work, maybe raised $5,000 from his uncle, and he's an executive producer now. So that is the blessing and the curse of, listen, when I came up in this world, it was a very different game. And fortunately still, it's not like just, any random people can get their stuff like I have in the past, like we have. I mean, look, again, and I say this humbly, but it's the truth, from Kinky Killers on Showtime to Eye Murders on, from Stars in Anchor Bay, and now Lionsgate 2, Sinatra Club on Netflix. I mean, you just can't do that. It just doesn't happen. Right. That's not how it works. There's a business to the business. So segueing around, I actually love and I'm thrilled. And, it was conversation after conversation with the Second Age of Aquarius. It's a low budget piece, and it's really clever, really sweet, really smart. And we are distributed through Entertainment Squad. And so what they're doing, again, you have a choice as a filmmaker. And again, Stacey Lane Wilson is the leader. She's the director. She and Darren Gordon Smith are the writers. They own the product. And so they get to make the final decisions in the end. And so they wanted, and I completely support this and understand, like their mission was, let's get it out, and let's get it out in the right way, in the best way, sooner than later. So I think that's a good segue in for filmmakers listening to where this is, and that we are shout out February 11th. We are releasing, and so we are so excited. And everybody check us out on Amazon Prime primarily, but also like iTunes, Google Play, Vudu, you name it, we're on it. So you see what they chose to do, owning the product, is get it out, whereas we could we, for any filmmakers listening, like, could we have waited for, and kept, pounding the pavements and fighting for a bigger deal? Could we have waited to finally get on a Showtime deal? Those deals, like it came with Kinky Killers. And again, guys, listeners, we shot that on film. We had Oscar nominated actors in it. Like, so the days of films just getting on to HBO, Showtime, Stars are really challenging. It's really challenging. So you can wait forever. Like you guys, I heard you say, so one of your projects is still sitting on a shelf. You can wait, or you take the opportunity and you do what, Stacey, Darren, and Nancy chose to do with Aquarius, the Second Age of Aquarius, and you get it out. And I think they did a stellar job of getting a streaming deal, and I'm all in support of it. And so we get to release to the world, and I think get a lot of eyeballs when it comes to like Amazon Prime streaming, which is not easy to do. These days. Good luck even getting on Amazon Prime unless you want to self-distribute, and then you're not going to have any media eyeballs. So I think this is a really smart way to do it on multiple streaming platforms. And I'm super, super excited for it to come out on February 11th and be like this. And I'm so excited because they're making it sort of like this little Valentine's Day, love fest. It's because it has music and comedy and love, and it's quirky and it's so raw. and I got to shout out, so Christina Kauf, she's the lead. She is so talented, so beautiful. So she does such an incredible job with the material that Stacey and Darren wrote, which is of course genius and really carries over into a variety of different generations. Like I really honestly can say, and I'm so proud to be a part of it, that families can watch it together, and Michael Ursu, who's like an up and coming new guy who is like this mega talent musician and so cute and sweet, and his delivery is so authentic and real. And the two of them are the leads. So much of this film takes place around the two. And then the other quirky characters, myself, I get to play Tawny Stevens. Wait, I just have to share this because for all your Philly Jersey, Tawny Stevens, for all your Philly Jersey listeners, check this out. So Alberta, Christina, is the lead, and she is, we'll say she's like, in her late 20s. And so I had her very, very young when I was probably like 17, and so I was aspiring at the time to be a video vixen in the 80s. So I was aspiring to be a video vixen. It's so funny. Like they just wrote it so well. And then we embellished it, and Stacey and I played with my hair and makeup and costumes, all that. So I'm her mom. She left New Jersey. It takes place, I'm in New Jersey still. I'm like a Jersey, 80s rocker mom stuck in the 80s. And Alberta went across country because she's a brilliant like computer programmer and tech, gal. And so, but what I also love about this on a more serious note is she suffers from agoraphobia. And, coming from chaos as a kid and a single mom who we're not sure who her dad may have been, I was this aspiring like groupie. And so she goes across country. And I think there's so much to be said about all of this, everything I'm saying, and the heart in the comedy too. And she goes and she creates, like, I know they equate it to like a weird science, which is so brilliant. And she creates like a hologram, an avatar of Russell Aquarius from one of her favorite bands with Nana. And I don't want to give too many spoiler alerts, but when she was a little girl, she would listen to Russell Aquarius, think like a, Led Zeppelin or a Grateful Dead, right? And so she loved this music because Nana, my mother, really raised her because I was so young. And so there's that. So there's all these like crossover generational things. And Stacey and Darren the writing is so smart and it's so funny and so quirky, but it's really smart. And so they really bring up so many topics in directly and in the subtext of the script, about the changes that, you go from the 70s, 80s, 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever, to now. And God, what a difference, and let me say this. Like I'm sitting here thinking, and I said it when I first read the script, I'm like, you guys are crazy visionaries, because who would ever think that all of a sudden there would be these like holograms, right? And now you turn around and every time I turn on the TV, there's a TV show, Alter Ego, with holograms. And then they're like making concerts and charging people $100 to see like Whitney Houston's hologram.
That's what I was just going to say that. Right? How crazy is this? So I'm I get an email from one of our local concert promoters, and it's just like, oh, check out Roy Orbison, at the Scottish Rite. I'm like, what? I'm like, Roy Orbison? So I click on the link, and it's freaking Roy Orbison projected onto the stage playing. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And it's like it's like you're watching a hologram in concert. That's insane.
That's correct. And so that is what, again, without giving too many spoilers,
sure.
And that's how smart Stacey and Darren were years ago when they started writing this piece, before I think any of this craziness happened. So it really does show so many layers, and it's, Alberta has so many sides, but the fun, quirkiness, the it's just so smart in what they've created. And then I gotta shout out to Nina Hurton, who is our editor, who created a lot of these graphics and the hologram, and so like an avatar. And she's super talented. She and Stacey are very close, and they collaborated together on Stacey's documentary, The Ventures.
Yes.
So. And Nina worked on that with her. So that was a blessing and a half to have her come onto this project as well. And so everybody, like, really, there's so many fun, quirky characters. And, I would have to be remiss if I missed anyone, so I won't really shout out to anybody else. But these two are the leads, and they're fantastic, and their chemistry is great, and they're really funny. And then, just shout out to so many Keishan Giles. And then we got Drew McInerney, my buddy from Philly, in this one too. And Del from Dark Del Housen from, Dark Delicacies, the famous horror shop in Hollywood. And just really, and shout out to Nancy Long. Nancy stepped in, and someone else was originally cast, and she couldn't play the role, and she stepped into the role of Helen, and she's hilarious. And then Martin Olson, who's an Emmy nominated for is it Phineas and, I'm going to say it wrong, Phineas and Ferb, right?
Yeah, no, you got it.
Because
Joe knows cartoons. I don't.
You got
really
it.
Know. Is that a cartoon?
Yeah, Phineas and
There
Ferb.
you go.
Okay.
See, I don't either.
Yeah.
So Phineas, I don't have any kids. So Phineas and Ferb. So he's like one of the creators and writers of Phineas. So they got,
That's awesome.
Stacey met him at a party and was like, you are the perfect look for Sid, who was back in the day Russell Aquarius's agent or manager, whatever. So like, it's just smart. It's just really smart. Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell you, I'm looking forward to watching it, because like the thing about this, before we're reading anything, the first thing I saw was the poster for it.
Yes.
And I think it's just so vibrant that it's like it's gonna get clicks just out of curiosity. Like, I'm so happy that's gonna be on all those stream platforms. I just feel it's gonna get those. It draws you in just from like looking at that poster. So I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be fun. And then also everything I've ever read that Stacey's written's that's fantastic. So
well, that's the thing, and it's going to be legit, because there's one thing I know, and that's like, I always, when Stacey says, I have like a project coming out or something, check it out if you want, that kind of thing. It's just like, I know that, okay, I have to literally, pay attention and actually like listen, view, write, like make sure I'm doing it of a certain caliber, because I know she's gonna be like, she's going to, like, I know she knows the business, and she knows all of that. Like you said, the poster, like, she knows that so well that I always feel like it's just like, oh God, well, if she's asking me to watch this, I better bring my A game. You know what I mean? Like, I get nervous on my side. Yeah.
I love that.
It makes any sense.
I love that. Yeah. And, I couldn't agree more about the poster, and shout out to both Stacey and Aaron Kai, who designed it.
I was hoping he would. I didn't want to say it. I figured you would know. Yep.
Yes, Aaron Kai. I mean, he's such an incredible artistic talent too. It's just such an incredible group of artists, and that's, I think, the most beautiful part of it. And yes, the poster is phenomenal. I love what you're saying, and what I loved when she sent out they sent out early on, a couple different options to all of us producers, and we get to choose, and we picked like 2 out of 6 or whatever it was, and like, the first thing that struck me too, which I agree with you, is so important for the selling point of any project, is that, it screams positivity. It screams fun. It screams like back in the day. And I think right now, and that's what I love so much. I mean, look, here's the other thing. Like, no one's trying to pretend that this is a $10 million film. It's a low budget film, so people need to understand the difference. And like, and what this team has created with a low budget is incredible, because it has so much heart. It's just so positive. And I think right now we're all really, really needing that,
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
you know what I mean? After this, let's say it. I hate to even talk about it anymore, but after the freaking crazy pandemic, it's like, people just need some positivity. And this is exemplary of that. I also love that the quirkiness, which makes you laugh. But like you're saying, I mean, Stacey and Darren both are so smart. They're so witty. So they write like, yes, like you said, they're going to bring their A game. And one thing I love too about working with Stacey, and I really love this about psychotherapy, like well, first of all, she knows exactly how to light me. She's the best. Like she knows how picky I am she knows what a pro I am. And she knows I'm picky as hell about my lighting and, and my angles, right?
Yep.
What were you going to say?
No. I'm saying, yeah, she's the, like, she has to bring her A game too.
Yes. And she is so good with color scheme. I mean, I'm telling you, I think like in her past, like she's such a great aesthetically, she's amazing. She's such a great photographer. She knows art direction so incredibly well. And like, that's one thing. I mean, I think psychotherapy is just so beautifully shot and like all the color schemes and everything. So she's really, really good at that kind of stuff. And so here we are again, another project where that's all like beautifully designed and taken care of. And so we've got all of that. And I love too that, you know, Alberta, my daughter in the film, you know, she's really like the lead, and she's a badass female, you know, so that's another thing to shout out to the whole cast and crew. I think everyone was very smart in I'll include myself in all of our choices. Like, so, you know, they wrote this incredible female character for her. And they also, I mean, again, with keeping in with inclusivity and having people of all colors, ages, sizes, you know, it just is relevant and the perfect timing for all of it. And then, I mean, again, I've got to continue to shout out, wait until you guys hear Darren Gordon Smith's music and these really his original songs. And you're talking, you know, again, we've discussed this in meetings, like about budget. I mean, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars of music composition, and his music that he wrote for this specifically, that he and Michael Ursu, who plays Russell Aquarius, they spent weeks in the recording studio, you know, and recorded all this original music that is like, it should be its own, you know, little concert tour. You know what I mean? So again, what this crew has created, and I'm just grateful to have had such an incredible acting role playing Tawny Stevens in it, but also being a part of the whole creative, you know, and business part of this, to know that something was made with so much, I always say, heart and art, is really a phenomenal feat, especially right now.
Yeah. I mean, that's got to be so cool. Like, cause it must have been, you know, not only like putting in all the hard work, but like working with all those people you knew, like just adds like that little like fun element to the full process. Right. I mean,
you know, I think that's a great point. So like I knew, so funny. So, I mean, Stacey and I are best friends for many, many years, and we collaborate together. And then Stacey and Darren Gordon Smith are best friends and have worked together before and collaborated together. And so I only know Darren and Nancy from, you know, socially through Stacey and going to Stacey's birthday parties and premieres and stuff. And I've loved them. They've always been so much fun and funny. Darren's always been so funny and quirky to talk to, you know, and so I've always appreciated them in a personal capacity, but this is the first time I've gotten to work with them, you know, and so it was really interesting because so many people did sort of, and yes, it's a great point, because when you have a low budget film, you know, you need to know people that you know you can work with, like Richard Trejo. You know, Richard Trejo was cast in a supporting little role. I shouldn't say little, but a supporting role, you know, and then last minute, something had fallen out with our DP, and he stepped up to the plate and like DP'd the hell out of this thing, you know? So again, look at what that does. And then of course, you know, I'm bringing in my Philly buddy, Drew McInerney, you know, and I was like, okay, we got to find something for Drew. And then, you know, Stacey, of course, you know, Aaron does a role. And again, Del from Dark Delicacies, who, gosh, I cast in the horror fans, again, the cult classic horror fans. I brought Del in to Ford Austin's Dahmer versus Gacy that I acted in 2008. So it really does become, and then so-and-so knew so-and-so who brought in then someone else who was originally attached but couldn't do it, introduced Keishan Giles, who's such a talent, to Stacey. And then he came on board, you know, and did it anyway, you know, even when the other person wasn't in the film anymore. And then again, when we lost our Helen, and Nancy said, I'll step in, you know, and here's Nancy, our line producer, and she steps in as Helen. So it really is so interesting how the indie world works. And when, again, I say this respectfully, when you don't have $10 million to hire the biggest casting directors in Hollywood, and, we are reliant on who you know, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And that is a fact. And that happens, unfortunately, more times than we wish it would, and sometimes, like in this scenario, again, Stacey bringing Nina back in after her last project because she knew they could work well together. Like, and me bringing in my E&O insurance company that we did, Acker, we did use for Sinatra Club. Like, so people are going to help you out, support you, that they're real deal. And that's a lot to be said for, especially in Hollywood. Let me tell you, we're not in Philly anymore, And so, what you guys experience other places in Philly and smaller, markets, like try tenfold in Hollywood. And I've been here long enough and have worked a lot to know that people are not always on the up and up. They're not always acting with integrity. It doesn't matter where you are, but really, especially in Hollywood, And so I've been on so many film experiences that I have been screwed over 6 ways to Tuesday. And so when you find a team like this, that is, listen, none of us did this because we're being paid $5 million each. We did it because we believe in a script. We believe in Stacey and Darren and their work. We believe in a story that has so much heart that deserves to be told. We believe in the music that, Darren wrote that's so much fun. And so that's why we do it.
Well,
hell yeah.
The film is The Second Age of Aquarius. Spoiler alert. We will be speaking with Darren Smith in the next few weeks.
We will. So you're going to be hearing about Darren. You're going to get to meet Darren very soon. And then also,
he's got a lot of great stories to tell. I'm glad that he's coming on solo because he's got, you got to talk to him about Repo, the Genetic Opera, and all about his music and writing. Yeah, he's an author. Like, he's just got so much too that I think it's really great that you're having him on to do his thing.
I have one more question. Do you have one more question?
Well, I'm just saying it's just going to be so great to have that. We got to have Brooke back. We do soon because there's just so much, and we've only scratched the surface, and we're getting excited for Second Age of Aquarius.
Yes, which is coming out. We'll see that. And then, so my question was just because, selfishly, we have to ask only because we, as you can tell, do not look like you do. Okay, Brooke. So, what would be your tip to organically grow the Red River Horror social media?
Oh boy, that's like asking me. You're asking the wrong person. That's
again.
I need that T-shirt. That's like asking me about what a real producer does.
Yeah, I think you need that.
You know what? I am going to. So
you know this online marketing space better than most people. So I had to ask.
And what? No, and I'm glad you did. So a couple things. So for one, and just to be clear again, and I'm honest, you guys see me. I make one post. I am legit, and that's why I only post maybe twice a week on Instagram. We'll talk about Twitter's a little easier. Instagram is so intense, and again, after working as an actress producer for 25 years, I'm blessed with a big fan base that follows me everywhere, etc. That separate, however, I have to work my butt off. I am on there. My husband, it'll be midnight and I'm still responding to fans' comments and stuff on Instagram. I probably spend on each post about 4 hours that day. It is like a part-time job. Okay. You have to put the work in. So there is that. It is about, again, the work. It is like nowadays I treat it as if it's like my little, TV station, TV network. However, there are other things I do believe in. And the first thing I want to begin with a positive that I believe in all my heart. And I steal this from Oprah Winfrey. I believe in, I'll steal it from Field of Dreams, better yet. With Oprah would say and I have to check myself all the time because trust me, I get angst I'm a nervous Nelly. I get angst all the time. I get anxious. I look at other people. I go, how come that person, I have more credits, and have done more, and that person has more followers or fans or this or that. We cannot get caught up in that. I have to catch myself on a daily. So what I truly, truly believe is that we each need to, if we stay true and authentic, to just do what we love. You guys are, creators, producers, hosts of this Red River Horror podcast show. If you keep doing what you're doing and do it long enough and trust it and just stay true and bring your heart and bring your A game each week, it will grow organically, and so will your social media. And that is what I truly believe in my heart and soul. And I tell myself that every day. Brooke, do what you love, keep acting, produce projects that inspire you, work with people that inspire you and that support each other, and the rest will take shape and form. And I got to tell you, it actually does. That aside, it does take hard work. The other thing is so now I'm going to give you my producer brain to answer you directly.
The business
How
side.
do you build? Yeah. I mean, I think you do want to start creating relationships and reaching out to publicists. You want to get, bigger named talent on to your show as guests. And that would be usually through PR companies. However, nowadays, and listen, it happens to me even at my level, every day I'm getting DM'd by 6 podcasters or radio hosts going, can you come on our show? So, and I had a publicist for 15 years. So you can do it now. There are ways to do it now without even going that route. Yeah. But I do believe that a PR company can really help you. So you probably want to start reaching out to publicists and get bigger names to come on in that capacity, or reach out to, better yet for you guys even, reach out to, anyone who's sort of a veteran in this industry. Like I have a booking agent, appearance agent, right?
Yeah.
I'm with Coolwater. Shout out to Derek. There's so many, Convention All-Stars, you name it. Start reaching out to them that represent a lot of horror talent and see if they are interested in having any of their clients on as guests. I think that would be a great thing to do. So the more you build that and the more you get people who will promote, I will always, when this airs, I'm going to promote it and I'm going to post it. That should draw traffic to you. And that's how we all have to build. That's the only way to do it.
We do it together.
I think I opened the show with when we have an interview. Yeah. That's when most people listen. It's like they like Joe and I, but they also want to hear what you have to say. Oh, and that's why. So you have to forgive me, Brooke. That's why I'm so grateful for your time.
Yeah.
And you've been very generous with it. But I always have to needle and ask those questions because there's so much that I need to learn, both in the film space, in the marketing space, the whole nine. And I know you kind of encompass all of that. So thank you.
Thank you. You're so welcome. And I appreciate it so much. And thank you for even giving me the, respect to say that I know my stuff, because I do. And I don't think I'm always acknowledged for that part of it. It's more, people see me as a scream queen and actress. So I'm very grateful. And I think it's great that you ask. And I actually think it's wonderful because so many times I've been on, I've done thousands of interviews in my career, and it's worse when people think they know everything and then they don't ask. And then all we do is fail, And so I want to acknowledge you. I think it's wonderful that you do inquire. And again, you asked the wrong person, because I'm a straight shooter. I'm a Philly chick. I love you guys. I'm a fan, and I will always be honest with you and the listeners. So I hope I was able to bring some important knowledge to the table today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brooke Lewis Bellas. If you have any ideas, anyone you want to hear us speak to, if you have any questions about the process, when we get to speak to people like Brooke, please let us know at redriverhorror@gmail.com. Of course, on Twitter, we're very active there, at Red River Horror. Joe, I'm going to sign off. You can take it away.
Of course, and you can find me at Red River Joe on the Twitter, and this has been episode number 72.
Wait. Ooh. Forgot the whole reason Brooke's here. The second age of Aquarius.
Coming out on February 11th on Prime Video, Vudu. It's, find it on a streaming option. You can't miss it. Again, that poster is vibrant. It's gorgeous. It's going to be a good time. I'm looking forward to it. We're all looking forward to it. Brooke Lewis Bellas, thank you so much.
Two other quick shout outs. Yeah. Don't forget, so for all the listeners too, on February 12th, it's Saturday, February 12th, and we're doing it at 4 p.m. Eastern time, so 1 p.m. Pacific time. We're doing a Twitter party, so I'm going to bug you guys to help us with that as well. We're doing a live party, Twitter party watch, where we're all watching the second age of Aquarius together and tweeting. So it's a Twitter party. So hopefully your listeners and you guys will help us with that. And also, I just want to say thank you guys so much again. Thank you for having me. Thank you for always supporting me. You're always posting my horror stuff. I'm very, very grateful. And one other quick shout out. I have to let you know for all the listeners, can't spoil it too much, but February is Women in Horror Month. And I am humbly so excited to share. I was nominated and chosen to be a part of Terror Cards. If you guys go to terrorcards.com, it's so much fun. I'm learning all about this kind of thing where they do digital trading cards. And I'm actually the trading card award. If you get through the first 14, you get to, I'm the award card.
Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. So it's Women of Darkness. Women of Darkness, everyone. So everybody go to terrorcards.com and check out Women of Darkness. And it goes the whole month of February for Women in Horror Month. So come on, Red River horror fans, check it out.
And you got to keep us honest here. So we were able to do Tony Todd Tuesday successfully because everybody in the horror space knows Tony Todd, Candyman, all that stuff. So as a boost to Stacy, because she's been so good to us, we started hashtag Women in Horror Wednesday. And again, just like as it's been the past few months, we haven't been keeping up with it. So February, we have to do it every single Wednesday. No BS.
Can't miss it.
No BS.
Yes. And I will be, tag me, and I will be right there, on the feed to promote.
Thank you so much, Brooke.
Thank you so much, Brooke.
Thank you, guys.
Woo!
Thank you, Philly.
Episode number 72. Remember to keep traveling those channels of fear.